Politically charged talk. Let me open up in prayer. Let's pray. God, thank you for this beautiful day. There's beautiful weather. The sun is shining. I thank you for just time to worship and just this place to worship in, this gathering that we have to learn more about you, Lord God, and to have a collision, Lord God, with your grace. God, speak to us this morning through your word, as you spoke to a short guy named Zacchaeus. So open up our hearts, open up our minds. Have your way with us this morning. In your name we pray. Amen. So if you have your Bibles, crack it open to Luke chapter 9. Luke chapter 19. Matthew, Mark, Luke. I'm your father. Every time you... Any Star Wars geeks? You always gotta say Luke. Luke chapter 19. I'm your father. Okay. When I speak kind of crazy. Like, I'll talk like machine gun status, like, so if you're not tracking, just go like, Brian, you're speaking too fast, slow down. I'll go off on, as you've already experienced, I will go off on many different tangents, but I will lead us all to concluding points, so don't freak out on me, okay? We are going to learn from the Word of God today. So we're in Luke chapter 19, and I'm going to read this. Follow along with me. We're going to be starting at verse 1. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but being a short man, he could not because of the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, he has gone to be the guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man he received and saved both his lives. Okay. So I'm sure this is a story that a lot of you guys have heard, in your VDSs, when you were wee lads and lasses in Sunday school. Oh, Zacchaeus, he's a short guy. Oh, so cute. He's climbing a tree like a monkey. It's a very kind of common story that we've heard about. But we're going to kind of re-examine it today, and we're going to try to learn a few things from Zacchaeus himself. Normally we try to learn things from Jesus, but we're going to learn some things from Zacchaeus. So let's start to review and refresh our minds about who Zacchaeus was. First of all, we find out that Zacchaeus is a tax collector. Tax collectors are generally, in this time and in this time frame, even for us today, they are people who you do not like. Like if they were to send you a friend request on Facebook, you'd be like, deny, no, cancel, reject, delete. You would not accept their friend request if you knew they were a tax collector. Okay? The reason why is that if you were a tax collector, so imagine we're all Jewish people, okay? We're all Jewish people. We're Jewish Asian people. So we're all Jews. And then I'm a fellow Jew just like you. But I'm a tax collector. That means I'm employed by Rome. Rome is an occupation force. Rome is a power, is an authority, is an entity that has occupied your hometown. You want to kick them out because they are foreigners, right? They are your enemy. So if I am working for Rome, in your eyes, how would I look? You'd be like, hey, Brian, you're a sellout. You sold out to Rome. You sold out to the people who are occupying us. You sold out to the people who are controlling over us, who have basically enslaved us. You are a sellout, Brian. That's what these tax collectors were. Zacchaeus was a Jewish guy who sold out his fellow Jewish brothers and sisters to the occupying Roman forces. Okay? So already, he's got this stacked against him. Whenever he's hanging out with all the other Jews are like, there is a sellout. There is a traitor. Talk to the hand. We don't want to associate with you because we thought you were a boy, but apparently you like Rome more than you like your own people. Okay? He was a tax collector. He was the chief tax collector. Okay, so he wasn't just a small fry. He wasn't down here in the totem pole. He was up here. He was like the manager of the tax collectors. And that gave him an even better position because as a chief tax collector, you are in charge of a larger geographic area. And if you have a larger geographic area to take taxes from people from, that means you have more taxes or you have more money to pull out and put into your own pockets. So 1 for Rome, 2, 3, 4, 5 for me, 6 for Rome, 7, 8, 9, 10 for me. So a large, being the chief tax collector, allowed Zacchaeus to be living large, just skimming off the top all the tax revenue that he was getting from his fellow brothers and sisters, Jewish brothers and sisters. And we know, I mean, it says right here, plainly in verse 2, he was wealthy. This guy was living large. He had the cash. I mean, if he was living today, he'd be driving around the Bentley. His house would be on cribs. You know, it just would be madness. He would be, we'd be like, oh man, we want to be like Zacchaeus. He's loaded. He's got the plasma and whatever. So he was loaded, but he became loaded and rich off the wallets and the purses and the accounts of his fellow brothers and sisters, Jewish brothers and sisters. So, he is a tax collector, he's the chief tax collector, and he basically betrayed his fellow brothers, Jewish brothers and sisters. When we look at him as Jews, we'd be like, Zacchaeus, you're lame, you're dumb, get out of here. We don't want to associate with you, we don't want to relate with you. Okay? So he has this kind of social kind of stigma tied to him. And in addition to that, he has this physical stigma. He's shorty. He's short, he's a small guy. And you got to think about back during this time, you know, they're not eating their Wheaties, they're not eating their vitamins, so they're already naturally going to be shorter. So I was reading some Bible commentators will estimate that he was probably, you know, lucky to be topping out over 5 feet. So somewhere around 5 feet tall, lower than that, shorter than that. And maybe some of you guys can relate, you know, growing up as a short person, you know, right? Is it a fun thing? You know, I guess it has its advantages. If you need to crawl through tight spaces, being short is good. But generally speaking, when people look at short people, it's like, oh, hey, shorty, you know, oh. And especially if you're an adult. If you're like 30 years old and you're like 5 feet tall, it's like, oh, hey there, are you in junior high? You know, it's like, shouldn't you be in school? You know, it's kind of demoralizing. It's kind of demeaning. People make fun of you. I had a friend, and I haven't actually seen him for a while, but he was a short guy, and out of the group of friends that we had, he was the shortest guy, but he was, in age, he was the oldest guy. And he was like 5'4", you know, and I guess for a Korean guy, that's pretty short. It's like 5'4", and he suffered from what I call short man syndrome. That's MS, short man syndrome. And what short man syndrome is basically, for example, like whenever we'd be playing basketball, short man syndrome for this guy would be like, I can dunk the ball, I can dunk the ball, I can dunk, give me the ball, I'm going to slam dunk the ball. And we'd be sitting there, dude, you're 5'4". You're not going to be able to dunk the ball. Even if there was a trampoline right there in front of underneath the hoop, you will not be able to dunk the ball. There is this big Grand Canyon gap between you and the hoop because of your vertically challenged nature. Short man syndrome. And he would just, the short man syndrome it would not just be on the court, but just like, because of his shortness, he was like trying to compensate for something. Like, oh, he always had to have the last word, he always had to, you know, get everyone to laugh at him, he had to be the center of attention. I don't know about you, after a certain while, encountering, you know, people, short man syndrome, people with this, you know, it's like, dude, facepalm, it's like, oh my gosh, can you just chill? Can you just stop? Can you just relax? It gets irritating, right? It's like nails on a chalkboard. It's like, dude. And pretty soon you don't want to hang out with this guy. So Zacchaeus, he's got the social kind of stigma. That's the professional kind of stigma by his job. And he's got this physical stigma just because of his shortness. He's got all these strikes against him in the eyes of his fellow brothers and sisters, his Jewish brothers and sisters. He is, in the end, in the final analysis, he is an outcast. He is the guy that you do not want to hang out with. He is the guy that you do not want to be seen with. So this is the plight of Zacchaeus. Basically, it sucks to be him. So now that we have understanding where Zacchaeus is coming from, we're going to go to verse 3 again. And verse 3, this is what Zacchaeus wants to do. He says, he wanted to see who Jesus was, but being a short man, he could not because of the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. There are a lot of things we can learn just in these two verses from what Zacchaeus is doing. Zacchaeus Even though he's a short guy, even though he is socially ostracized and estranged and alienated by the rest of the community, he still has in his mind, hey, I want to see Jesus. I want to see Jesus. I want to see Jesus. I know what it feels like to not be seen because I'm a shorty and I'm a tax collector and no one wants to see me, and but I'm not going to let that get to me. I want to see Jesus. And Zacchaeus, he keeps it very simple. He keeps it very basic. He starts with the first building block is just wanting to see Jesus. And a lot of times, when we think about our own kind of spiritual journeys, our own spiritual faith, we kind of just bypass that. We forget about, it'd kind of be helpful if I had this actual desire to want to see Jesus. We kind of like jump from point A to point C. We forget, hey, in the middle, yeah, you know what, maybe I should start with the desire to actually want to see Jesus. And Zacchaeus, he understands that, hey, okay, if I'm going to have an encounter with Jesus, I need to grow this desire. I need to have this want to actually want to see him. So he starts, we see in verse 3, he wanted to see Jesus. Zacchaeus wanted to see Jesus. I don't know about you, if there's anyone that you've ever wanted to see so badly in your life. When I was in 3rd grade, I had this crush on this girl. Her name was Diane. And I would think of, it would, I don't know if you guys can relate, but whenever you have a crush on someone and you see that person, everything goes in slow motion, like this ballad music comes on, and it's like, oh, everything's all fuzzy and blurry, like those pictures you take, like that sticky picky and all stuff. It's like this cool. And so I would always try to do whatever I could at recess time and lunchtime to see Diane and to be seen by her. So sometimes we'd be playing like tag, and she would be it, right? And we're playing on an open grass field. And I would kind of like run in front of her so that I would make her, so she would like try to tag me. So I'm running along, and I know she's behind me, and then all of a sudden I would just trip. Oh, I fell! It's a completely flat, level field. There's no hole, there's no barrier, there's no obstacle. I just wanted to be seen by Diane, and I wanted to see her. So I just tripped. Oh, I fell. Oh, she touched me. She tagged me. I'd be happy for the rest of my life, Stupid, I know it's lame. It's desperate. Desperate moves call for desperate measures. But see, it's got